Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe and turn on notification.
The living room was kept at a precise 68 degrees, a temperature Lucas preferred, for the preservation of his patients. It was Friday night, 22 minutes past 8. The timeline of the evening had been standard, bordering on mundane, which was exactly how Lucas liked to curate his life. He was a quality control manager at a mid-sized industrial fabrication plant. His professional life was dedicated to spotting microscopic fractures in metal, and his personal life was dedicated to ensuring there were no fractures. In his domestic routine, he sat on the gray sectional sofa, feet elevated on the mahogany coffee table, a condensation-slicked bottle of Pilsner in his right hand. The house was quiet, save for the roar of the television. Rachel had left 3 hours prior. She had been vibrating with that specific, high-frequency energy she always adopted when the girls from her public relations firm were planning an outing. They were going to the stadium, she had said. A corporate box seat, courtesy of a client. Free drinks. Heated seats. Harmless fun. Lucas had stayed behind. He had cited fatigue. But in truth, he simply cherished the solitude. Their 8th wedding anniversary was approaching in 4 months. 8 years of stability. They had a rhythm. They had a shared bank account, a mortgage on a 2-story colonial in the suburbs of Denver, and an unspoken agreement that their life was good. Not thrilling, perhaps, but structurally sound. Or so the data suggested. The football match on the 42-inch screen was entering the critical phase. The home team was trailing by 1 goal. It was the 83rd minute. Lucas took a long pull from his beer, his eyes tracking the pixelated ball as it arced across the green field. The striker connected. The net rippled. The equalizer. The stadium noise, transmitted through the surround sound speakers, was deafening. A wall of human sound. The camera director in the broadcast booth cut to a wide shot of the crowd, then zoomed in on the section behind the goal, where the chaos was most intense. It was a sea of painted faces, waving scarves, and manic joy. The camera panned left to right, capturing the raw ecstasy of the mob. And then, the anomaly occurred. It lasted for exactly 4 seconds. The camera lingered on a pair of fans celebrating near the railing. A woman was perched on a man's shoulders, rising above the throng like a queen surveying her subjects. Her arms were thrown high in the air, her mouth open in a scream of delight. Lucas blinked. The bottle in his hand stopped halfway to his mouth. The brain is a pattern recognition machine. It is designed to filter out the noise and identify the familiar. Lucas's brain locked onto the image with the violence of a car crash. It was the scarf first. Teal, with a subtle silver thread woven through it. He knew the thread count. He knew the texture, because he had bought it for Rachel 2 Christmases ago. Then, the hair, chestnut brown, pulled back into a high, severe ponytail, exposing the neck. And then, the face, even distorted by the wide-angle lens and the scream of victory. There was no error in identification. It was Rachel. But the anomaly was not just Rachel. It was the support structure beneath her. The man holding her was not a faceless colleague from the PR firm. He was not a stranger caught up in the moment. The man was wearing a faded red trucker hat, with a white mesh back. He had a thick, unkempt beard that hid a weak chin. He was looking up at Rachel, not at the field. His hands were gripping her thighs, his thumbs digging into the denim of her jeans with a familiarity that made Lucas's stomach turn over. It was Derek, Lucas's cousin, his best man, the person he had shared a bunk bed with during summer camps for 6 years. The man who had sat at Lucas's dining table 3 nights ago, eating steak, and complaining about the cost of drywall. The camera cut away, returning to the players celebrating on the field. Lucas sat, frozen. The Pilsner bottle slipped from his fingers, tumbling onto the thick carpet. It didn't break, but the beer glugged out, creating a dark, wet stain that spread slowly, like a disease. Lucas did not move to clean it up. He stared at the television. his mind attempting to reject the input it had just received. Hypothesis 1, it was a lookalike. A doppelganger. Rebuttal, the teal scarf. The specific way Rachel's ponytail was secured with a black velvet scrunchie. The watch on Derek's left wrist. A bulky, tactical chronograph Lucas had given him for his 30th birthday. Hypothesis 2. They had run into each other at the game. It was platonic. A celebration. Rebuttal, the hands. Lucas closed his eyes. And the image burned against his eyelids. Derek's hands were not holding her for balance, they were caressing. And Rachel? She wasn't just sitting there. She was leaning down. Her hand resting on top of Derek's cap. Her body language screaming a profound, sickening intimacy. There were no girls from the office in the frame. No female colleagues. Just the two of them. Isolated in a bubble of adrenaline and lust. Broadcast live. To millions of households. Lucas stood up. His legs felt heavy. As if the gravity in the room had suddenly increased. He walked to the television and pressed his hand against the warm plastic of the screen. As if he could physically reach in. And drag them out to explain themselves. He checked the time. 8:45. The game was not over. He needed verification. He needed to be the quality control manager. Of his own collapsing reality. He picked up his phone. His fingers trembled, making it difficult to unlock the screen. He opened the social media application. He checked Rachel's profile. Nothing. No updates since yesterday. He checked Derek's profile. Radio silence. They were smart. Or they thought they were. They kept the digital footprint clean, while leaving the analog reality messy. Lucas began to pace. The living room, once a sanctuary, now felt like an interrogation cell. He walked from the window to the kitchen island and back. A loop of 12 steps. With every step, a memory resurfaced. Rewritten by this new data. Derek coming over to fix the deck last month. Rachel bringing him lemonade. The laughter. Was it too loud? The way Derek lingered at the door when saying goodbye. Did they look at each other too long? The time Rachel stayed late at a networking event and came home smelling of cigarette smoke. Even though she didn't smoke. Derek smoked. The pieces slammed together. It wasn't a puzzle anymore. It was a picture of a fool. And Lucas was the subject. He stopped pacing. He looked at the clock. 8:52. He dialed Rachel's number. The phone rang. Once. Twice. 3 times. On the 4th ring. The call connected. "Hey, babe." Rachel's voice came through the speaker. She was breathless. Background noise rushed in. The thump of drums. The roar of thousands of throats. "Can you believe that goal? It's insane here." Her voice was cheerful. Innocent. It was the voice of the woman he had married. The woman who made him coffee every morning. It was a lie wrapped in a frequency he used to love. "Yeah," Lucas said. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. Flat. Metallic. Detached. "I saw the goal. I'm watching it. It's crazy." She shouted over the noise. "The girls and I are losing our minds. We might go grab drinks after to let the traffic die down. Don't wait up, okay?" Lucas felt a cold sensation spread from his chest to his fingertips. "The girls." "Which girls?" Lucas asked. "Is Sarah there, or Jen?" A microsecond pause. A glitch. In her processing. "Yeah. Sarah. Jen. All of them. Why?" "Just wondering," Lucas said. He walked over to the window and looked out at the dark, empty street. "I just wanted to make sure you were safe. The crowd looks rough." "I'm fine, Lucas. I'm with the team. I have to go, I can't hear a thing." "Love you, Rachel," Lucas said. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't scream. He simply applied the pressure of the truth. "I saw you." Silence. The background noise of the stadium seemed to swell, filling the void on the line. "What?" she asked. Her tone had shifted. The cheerfulness evaporated, replaced by a sharp, guarded edge. "I saw you," Lucas repeated, enunciating every syllable. "On the television. 42-inch screen. High definition. I saw the scarf. I saw the ponytail. And I saw Derek." The silence on the other end stretched out. Heavy. Suffocating. It lasted for 5 seconds. 5 seconds where Lucas could hear her breathing hitch. He imagined Derek standing next to her, seeing the blood drain from her face. "Lucas. You're imagining things," she said. But her voice cracked. It was a weak defense. A structural failure. "It's dark here. You saw someone else. You were on his shoulders, Rachel," Lucas said. "He was holding your legs. You looked happy. Happier than I've seen you in 3 years." "Lucas. Stop," she whispered. "Is Sarah on Derek's shoulders too?" Lucas asked. "Is this a company policy? Team building?" Click. She hung up. Lucas stared at the phone. The screen went black. Guilt does not hang up. Confusion asks questions. Innocence laughs it off. Only panic disconnects the line. He tried to call back immediately. Straight to voicemail. He called Derek. Straight to voicemail. They were coordinating. He could see it in his mind's eye. The frantic whispering, the panic, the hastily constructed alibis. They were in the car now. Or huddled in a corner of the stadium concourse, trying to figure out how to spin a narrative that had already shattered. Lucas placed the phone on the counter. He went to the kitchen sink and washed his face with cold water. He needed to be calm. He needed to be clinical. Emotional outbursts were for people who didn't have a plan. Lucas always had a plan. He sat back down on the sofa. Careful to avoid the beer stain. He would wait. The hours between the phone call and the sound of the garage door opening were a study in psychological excavation. Lucas did not turn the television off. But he muted it. The images flickered. Highlights. Analysis. Commercials. Ghosts of the event that had ended his marriage. He sat in the dark. The blue light of the screen washing over his face. He began to audit his life. He went back 3 months. That was the timeline. September. The Labor Day barbecue. Derek had brought a new cooler. He had been loud. Boisterous. The life of the party. Rachel had been wearing a sundress. Lucas remembered watching them by the grill. Derek had whispered something to her. And Rachel had thrown her head back and laughed. At the time, Lucas had categorized it as family bonding. Now, reviewing the data, he recategorized it as flirting. October. The leaking pipe in the basement. Lucas had been away at a conference in Ohio. He had called Derek to go over and take a look. Derek had spent 4 hours at the house. Tricky pipe, Derek had texted. Had to replace the valve. Rachel had mentioned that Derek stayed for pizza. Just pizza. Lucas had thanked him. He had actually thanked the man for entering his home while he was away. November. The change in Rachel's schedule. More late nights at the office. Crisis management, she had called it, new clients. High demands. She had bought new lingerie. Black lace. Sharper than her usual cotton. She wore it once for Lucas. Then he never saw it again. Where was that lingerie now? Was it in her bag? The betrayal wasn't just the act on the screen. It was the retroactive poisoning of every memory. Every time she had smiled at his phone screen. Was she texting him? Every time she had been too tired for intimacy with Lucas. Was it because she had spent her energy on Derek? The realization was a physical weight in his chest. It wasn't just a fling. You don't sit on a man's shoulders at a public event for a fling. You don't look that comfortable. That synchronized. Unless there is a history. This was a relationship. A parallel life running alongside his own. Parasitic. And hidden. 11:45. The headlights swept across the living room window. The sound of the garage door motor was a low, grinding hum. Lucas did not move. He clasped his hands together in his lap. He felt his heart rate increase. A biological betrayal of his calm facade. He forced his breathing to slow. In for 4. Hold for 4. Out for 4. The door from the garage to the hallway opened. The alarm chimed. The door closed. The lock clicked. Heavy footsteps. Not the brisk walk of a woman returning from a night out with the girls. The slow, dragging steps of a convict walking to the gallows. Rachel entered the living room. She didn't turn on the lights. She stood in the entryway, illuminated only by the flicker of the muted television. She looked wrecked. Her hair was messy. The ponytail loose. The teal scarf was gone. Her eyes were red. Puffy. The mascara smeared in dark streaks down her cheeks. She was clutching her purse to her chest like a shield. Lucas looked at her. He didn't speak. He let the silence do the work. Silence is a vacuum. People feel compelled to fill it. Lucas, she croaked. Her voice was destroyed. Raw from crying. Or screaming. Or both. He remained seated. He looked at her with the cold curiosity of a scientist observing a specimen under a microscope. I can explain, she said. The universal opening statement of the guilty. Explain, Lucas said. One word. No emotion. Rachel took a step forward. Then stopped. She seemed afraid of him. Which offended Lucas. He had never raised a hand to her. He had never threatened her. That she feared him now was a projection of her own villainy. It's not what it looked like, she stammered. It looked like you were on Derek's shoulders celebrating a goal, Lucas said. Is that factually incorrect? No, she whispered. But the context. The context, Lucas repeated. The context where you told me you were with Sarah and Jen. The context where you lied about your location. The context where my cousin had his hands on the inside of your thighs. Rachel flinched. She dropped her bag on the floor and covered her face with her hands. Sobs began to rack her body. It was a pathetic display. Lucas watched it without a shred of empathy. The switch in his brain had been flipped. The woman crying in front of him wasn't his wife. She was a breach of contract. Stop crying, he said. His voice was sharp, cutting through the room. Tears are useless data. I want the timeline. When did it start? Rachel shook her head, sobbing harder. I'm sorry, Lucas. I'm so sorry. When? Lucas stood up. The movement made her jump. August, she whispered. August. 4 months. 4 months of lies. 4 months of smiling across the breakfast table. August, Lucas nodded. The lake trip. With his family. And ours. She nodded. You two disappeared for a walk. To get firewood. Yes, she choked out. Lucas felt a wave of nausea. But he swallowed it down. And since then? How often? I don't know. A few times a week. Sometimes lunch. Sometimes. When you were working late. And tonight? We wanted to go to the game. He got tickets. I thought with the crowd. No one would see. You thought you were invisible, Lucas said. You were arrogant. I love you, Lucas, she wailed. Stepping toward him. Reaching out a hand. I do. This was a mistake. It was a stupid, terrible mistake. I tried to stop it. I did. But Derek. He listens to me. It just happened. Lucas stepped back. Avoiding her touch as if she were radioactive. It didn't happen to you, Rachel. You aren't a victim of the weather. You made choices. Hundreds of choices. Every text was a choice. Every lie was a choice. He looked at her stomach. A thought occurred to him. A terrible, dark calculation. Are you pregnant? He asked. The room went deathly still. The sobbing stopped abruptly. Rachel froze. Her eyes went wide. Terrified. Lucas felt the blood drain from his face. He had asked it as a weapon. A rhetorical spear. But her reaction confirmed a hit. Rachel, he said. His voice dropping to a whisper. Are you pregnant? She looked down at the floor. She wrapped her arms around her midsection. She nodded. A single, jerky motion. I took a test on Tuesday, she whispered. The world tilted on its axis. Lucas grabbed the back of the sofa to steady himself. Tuesday, he said. You've known since Tuesday. And you didn't tell me. I was going to, she cried. I was trying to find the right time. Is it mine? Lucas asked. The question hung in the air. Ugly. And necessary. Rachel squeezed her eyes shut. I don't know. The 3 words destroyed everything that remained of the foundation. I don't know, she repeated. Her voice rising in hysteria. We, you and I. We were together last month. And Derek and I. It was around the same time. I don't know, Lucas. I swear to God, I don't know. Lucas looked at her. He saw the chaos. He saw the ruin. And he realized that there was nothing here to save. The quality control inspection was complete. The product was defective beyond repair. "Get out," Lucas said. "What? Get out of my house. Go to your parents. Go to a hotel. Go to Derek's trailer for all I care. But you cannot sleep here tonight. Lucas, please. It's late. I have nowhere." "You have a boyfriend," Lucas spat the word out. "Go be with him." He turned his back on her. He stared at the blank wall. He heard her crying behind him. He heard her pick up her bag. He heard the front door open and close. And then, finally, the house was quiet again. 68 degrees. Silent. Empty. Lucas did not sleep. He sat on the sofa until the sun came up. Watching the gray light filter through the blinds, he formulated a plan. He was good at logistics. He knew how to move assets. How to cut losses. At 7:30 on Saturday morning, he called Derek. Derek answered on the second ring. His voice was groggy. Guarded. "Hello? Come over," Lucas said. "Lucas, man, look, I can. Come over. Now. Or I come to you. And I bring a tire iron. Your choice." "I'm coming," Derek said. 20 minutes later. Derek's rusted pickup truck pulled into the driveway. Lucas watched from the window. Derek walked up the path. Looking like a man marching to a firing squad. He wasn't wearing the red hat. He looked smaller without it. Lucas opened the door before Derek could knock. He didn't invite him in. He stepped out onto the porch, closing the door behind him to protect the sanctity of the house. "Lucas," Derek started, holding his hands up in a surrender gesture. "I know you're mad. You have every right to be mad." Lucas looked at him. "I'm not mad, Derek. I'm impressed. It takes a special kind of snake to eat at a man's table and sleep with his wife in the same week." "It wasn't like that," Derek said, shifting his weight. "We didn't mean to hurt you. We just connected. It's hard to explain." "She's pregnant," Lucas said. He dropped the information like a grenade. And watched the shrapnel fly. Derek's mouth opened. Then closed. His eyes bugged out. "What? She's pregnant. 8 weeks, roughly. She doesn't know who the father is." Derek staggered back a step. He looked like he had been punched in the gut. "No. No way. She didn't say anything. She took the test Tuesday. She was too busy riding your shoulders to mention it, I guess." Derek ran a hand through his hair. "Oh my God. Lucas. If it's mine. If it's yours," Lucas interrupted. His voice cold as ice. "You will take it. You will take her. You will take the baby. And you will disappear from my life." "I can't. I'm not ready for a kid," Derek stammered. "I'm living in a one-bedroom apartment. I'm barely making rent." "That sounds like a logistics problem," Lucas said. "Not my department." "Lucas, we're family," Derek pleaded. "We grew up together. Doesn't that count for anything?" "It counted for me," Lucas said. "Apparently. It didn't count for you." He stepped closer to Derek, invading his personal space. "Here is the schedule. You are going to stay away from me. If I see your truck on this street, I call the police. When the baby is born, we do a DNA test. Until then, you are dead to me. Do you understand?" Derek nodded. His face pale. He looked like a child who had broken a window and suddenly realized the cost of the glass. "Get out of here," Lucas said. Derek turned and walked back to his truck. He didn't look back. He drove away. The muffler of his truck rattling. Lucas watched him go. He felt nothing. No satisfaction. No relief. Just the hollow exhaustion of a man who has just supervised the demolition of his own life. The next 4 weeks were a blur of lawyers and silence. Rachel stayed with her sister. Lucas stayed in the house. They communicated only through legal counsel. Lucas filed for divorce on Monday morning. He cited irreconcilable differences and infidelity. He requested a paternity test as a condition of the settlement. The house felt too big. Every room held a ghost. The kitchen where they made pancakes. The bedroom where they slept. The hallway where the photos hung. Lucas took the photos down. He stacked them in a box in the garage. He didn't break them. That would be dramatic. He just archived them. Rachel tried to reach out. She sent emails. Long, rambling blocks of text apologizing. Begging for a chance to talk. To explain the nuance of her feelings. Lucas deleted them unread. He didn't care about nuance. He cared about facts. The fact was, she was pregnant. The fact was, she had betrayed him. The fact was, trust, once broken, cannot be welded back together. It is a material that does not handle stress fractures. He went to work. He focused on the quality of the metal. He found flaws in the production line. He yelled at subordinates for minor errors. He became harder. Sharper. His colleagues avoided him. They whispered. They knew. In a town this size. The stadium incident hadn't gone unnoticed. The clip had circulated on local social media. Lucas was the guy whose wife was on the jumbotron with another man. He was a meme of humiliation. He bore it with a stoic armor. Let them talk. They didn't know the half of it. The paternity test could not be performed non-invasively until the 9th week. Lucas waited. He counted the days. When the time came, they met at a clinic. It was the first time he had seen Rachel in a month. She looked terrible. Pale. Thin. Despite the pregnancy. She wore a baggy sweater. She wouldn't look him in the eye. Derek was there too. Sitting in the corner of the waiting room. Looking at his phone. His leg bouncing nervously. They were drawn. Blood was taken. Forms were signed. It was clinical. Sterile. And horrifying. The results took 5 days. They agreed to meet at the lawyer's office to open them. It was neutral ground. Lucas sat on one side of the mahogany conference table. Rachel sat opposite him. Derek wasn't there. He had authorized Rachel to receive the results. The lawyer, a woman named Miss Vance, held the envelope. She looked tired. She hated these cases. We have the results from the lab, Miss Vance said. The probability of paternity is listed as 99.9%. She slid the paper across the table. Lucas didn't touch it. He just looked at the text. Alleged father, Derek Miller. Probability of paternity, 99.99%. Lucas let out a breath he felt he had been holding for 2 months. It wasn't his. The relief was so intense it made him dizzy. It was followed immediately by a profound, hollow sadness. He had wanted children. He had wanted a family with Rachel. But not this child. Not a child made in deceit. Not a child that would forever tie him to the man who stabbed him in the back. Rachel read the paper. She started to cry. Silent. Shaking sobs. She knew what this meant. It meant the end of the maybe. It meant the end of the hope that if the baby was Lucas's, he might forgive her. It's his, Lucas said. It was a statement of fact. Lucas. She began. Miss Vance, Lucas said. Turning to his lawyer. Proceed with the divorce filing. I want the house listed for sale immediately. I want a clean break. No alimony. She has a partner to support her now. I understand, Miss Vance said. Lucas stood up. He looked at Rachel one last time. Good luck, he said. You're going to need it. He walked out of the office. He took the elevator down to the lobby. He walked out into the cold winter air. The sun was shining. It was bright. Blindingly bright. He was alone. He was 34 years old. He was divorced. He was childless. But he was free. 6 months later. The timeline of recovery is nonlinear. Some days were good. Some days Lucas woke up reaching for a body that wasn't there. But the data trend was positive. He had sold the Colonial. He bought a condo in the city center. Closer to the plant. Minimalist furniture. No carpet. Hardwood floors that were easy to clean. He started running. He lost 10 pounds. He cut his hair shorter. He heard rumors. Of course. Information has a way of leaking. Rachel and Derek tried to make it work. It was a disaster. Derek wasn't ready to be a father. He resented the child before it was even born. He resented Rachel for getting caught. They argued. They broke up. Derek moved to a different state to work on a pipeline, sending checks, but staying absent. Rachel was living in a small apartment. Working part-time. Preparing to raise a child alone. It was a tragedy. But it wasn't Lucas's tragedy. It was a Saturday afternoon. Lucas was sitting in a coffee shop near his new apartment, reading a book on supply chain management. He had an espresso. He looked up and saw her through the glass window. Rachel was walking down the sidewalk. She was heavily pregnant now, waddling slightly under the weight. She was carrying 2 heavy grocery bags. She looked exhausted. Her hair was pulled back in a messy bun. No velvet scrunchie. She wore no makeup. She looked older than her years. She stopped at the crosswalk, waiting for the light to change. She turned her head and looked into the coffee shop. Their eyes met. For a second, the world paused. Lucas saw the regret in her eyes. It was deep, vast, and painful. She looked at him. Clean, healthy, calm. And then she looked at her own reflection in the glass. The contrast was brutal. She made a small movement, as if to wave. Or perhaps just to acknowledge him. Lucas didn't wave back. He didn't frown. He didn't smile. He simply looked at her. Acknowledged the data point. Subject, ex-wife. Status, pregnant. Isolated. Regretful. And then, he looked back down at his book. The light changed. Rachel turned and walked away. Lucas took a sip of his espresso. It was bitter, hot, and perfect. He turned the page. The chapter was finished. The audit was closed. He was ready to start a new file. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next.